Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 94 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hey guys.
And Grace.
Hi everyone.
Today we'll be talking about season 4, episode 13 of 911 Lone Star, titled Open. There's so much to talk about, so let's get to it. And yeah, this was an interesting episode.
I have many thoughts.
I'm gonna be honest.
I have many tangents.
Half of them are not good.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
I'm gonna have like 2 main tangent sessions, and that's all I'm gonna have to say for them.
I have a feeling all our tangents are gonna be about the same thing. I have a feeling.
It's like 2 different things, mostly.
Yeah, mine honestly might be a little bit more than that.
It's like 2 main things, but I'll probably rant about other things too. I have many feelings.
Yeah. Okay, so the episode starts with an allergic reaction, or so we think. These women are gossiping at work, and all of a sudden, one of them is like their tongue starts swelling up, like out of her mouth, like 3 times the size of a normal tongue. Yeah,
that was so fake.
Yeah, there
was no way that was real. Okay, I looked up pictures earlier because I was like, and I like when I was watching, I was like, that can't be real. Like that's definitely not real. Like that's not legit. Like they definitely just use a really big prosthetic just to make it so dramatized. And I literally looked up pictures earlier, and it was not that big. Like, yeah. I was like, okay, that is just drama. I just love though that like when they're gossiping, she was talking about this one guy that worked with wasn't wearing his wedding ring anymore, and I just love what comes up later with that.
Right.
But yeah, that was so fake. I was like, no, that's not real.
Right. So the woman that wasn't having the reaction starts yelling for an EpiPen, and so gives this girl this epinephrine when somebody actually had one, which, you know, if you have any kind of allergy, you should probably carry one. It's surprising. It's funny too, because my neighbor, and who's also my roommate's son, he's actually allergic to the ingredients of an EpiPen.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's a little backwards.
He has so many allergies anyways, so like Benadryl's about all he can take.
That is so bad. Like, oh my god, that's like the worst.
And it's epinephrine. It's the kick to the pants. So yeah, so then they're talking to Grace on the phone. She's giving her the EpiPen. Yeah, it still gets bigger. So there's something going on. Grace is on the phone with her, and she figures out that it's hereditary angioedema. There's a facial swelling triggered by stress, and the girl had been like on her like 80th cup of coffee, and she was like just crazy excited, and she was super excited about the guy who wasn't wearing his wedding ring.
Yeah, exactly. And like she had basically stayed up all night working on some presentation or whatever.
Yeah. All right.
But speaking of someone who has had 2 presentations in the last 2 weeks, felt that.
Oh my god. I remember staying up till like 4 a.m. or honestly I think a couple times I stayed till 6 a.m. working on something, and then having to wake up like 2 hours later.
Yeah. So then the woman starts choking, and she can't breathe because, you know, her tongue is so big that her mouth is totally shut. And this guy walks in, and so he and the gal start helping her try to get a water bottle straw into her throat, and using like a spoon or something to kind of like hold her tongue back. And I'm like, I'm so surprised they didn't like walk her through how to do like a tracheotomy, because that would have been what I've seen in so many other shows.
Oh yeah, I have seen that like on other shows, like for sure. But I'm like kind of glad they didn't do that. That would just been like really.
One thing we've had that happen multiple times in the show.
Yeah,
me flashing back to Abby and Buff.
Yes, that too. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So the woman wakes up after all of this, and Tommy, Nancy, and TK get there, and TK tells the friend that she's like that she had saved her life if they hadn't have done what they, because she was concerned that she had hurt her with putting the straw down her throat. And then Jason's like off randomly. He's like, "Oh, there's my wedding ring." He had apparently dropped it. He's like, "My wife's going to kill me if I didn't find this." And it was like sitting under a shelf. So now this, he's off the market. And I think Nancy's line was the best with, "Let that be a lesson to you. Once that thing is on, it stays on." And TK's like, "Oh, that's the play."
I love that line.
Like,
I was like,
that was a good line.
Queen she was literally like, if you literally take that off, I'm literally going to literally come for you. And I'm like, yes, girl, please.
Yes, agreed.
I can't be there.
Oh man. Okay, so we go on to the next scene, which is the Ryder family and Grace's parents. This is very interesting. So we've got Judd and Grace and Charlie, and Grace's parents are there, which we have not seen her parents since season 2.
I know, it's crazy.
And there's some hints dropped that they haven't seen a lot of Charlie, and Grace's dad is surprised that Charlie is coloring because she's grown up so much. And they're like, well, we could babysit so you don't have to pay a babysitter. And Grace is like, you can tell Grace is really not interested in this idea. But the dad then starts bringing up something about her sisters singing, and Grace saying how, they were like, she was saying it was one of them. And then it was like, no, she wasn't born yet. Yeah. So it's just an awkward kind of conversation that Grace obviously did not want to have.
Right.
And it's definitely making me catch on that she's not real happy with her dad still after everything that happened.
Understandably.
Because last time we saw
sure.
him, he was caught with another woman in a hospital, and he had I don't remember what happened, but
right.
Judd caught him.
And I was to myself today, I was like, okay, so what episode of season 2 were they in? So I had to look it up because it's been a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so the him cheating came up in 205 difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were in flashbacks in Saving Grace. So I was like, okay, that makes sense, because in my brain I couldn't remember what order it happened, or because I was like, wait, were they in that episode? But I was like, no, in my head I was like, no, they weren't. But that's just because they weren't in present day. So I was very confused.
Right. Yeah. And her dad dropping hints about the girls singing, because we find out that Grace has 2 sisters, and everyone's talking about how they wish they'd get back together, which is definitely art imitating life, as the McLean sisters are kind of a little song group. I've heard a few of their songs. I don't know if they have an album out or something, but they call themselves 3.
Right.
And
so
she sings with her
since
sisters.
they were kids, but yeah.
It was just a really kind of a cool reference. And then Grace gets a call that the babysitter they were going to have that night or the next day or something has the flu, so she can't watch Charlie, and that gives her parents the opportunity to say, well, we can do it. And Judd is like, oh, sure.
Judd, no, honey, no.
Yeah,
I don't know if he was purposely doing it or if he just was that totally oblivious to what was actually.
I don't think he was oblivious
feeling.
Because earlier she was very just not her parents kept offering, and she was kind of no, and Judd was kind of looking at her oh, okay. So I think he was getting it, but I think after the babysitter canceled, he was oh yeah, maybe we should do this, because
right.
I think he was trying to trip her out of the comfort zone, honestly.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly not happy that this is in a stasis.
Right. Yep. And so after her parents leave, Grace is putting Charlie to bed, and then she comes out and starts talking to Judd, and Grace seems kind of upset and doesn't want to say anything to Judd that she'll regret. He's like, how are you mad that I got us some free childcare? He's like, I'm not comfortable with him watching our daughter. And I was like, oh.
That's sad, but I also get it, because if my dad had done that to my mom, I would have been pissed.
Right.
And I just can't believe that I understand it, but I also can't believe that she hasn't said anything in basically 2 years.
Yeah.
She has let this go for 2 years, because if that was me, I would have went off right then and there when I found out. You wouldn't have been able to stop me.
Yeah. Well, I love Judd's comment. Well, I'm uncomfortable when y'all are in the same room.
True that.
Because,
the tension.
Yes. And he mentions that babies pick up on stuff, which is maybe why Charlie was a little restless.
That's true.
And because she's barely been around her grandparents, and they should be spending around. And, Judd says it's not right that they're not around. And of course, Grace's comeback is, well, what's not right is stepping out on your marriage.
True.
Very true.
And then Judd kind of goes on. He's like, he agrees that, Grace's dad messed up, but it was 2 years ago. And he's, he did it. It was a one-time thing, and he's repented. However he wants to take that. Grace thinks the only reason why he repented was because he got caught by Judd.
Probably, honestly.
And it's very...
That's most cheaters.
Honestly, yeah. Because, in my head, I was like, a one-time thing, yeah, okay, maybe so.
Never just a one-time thing.
I know, that's what I was thinking, because I was like, come on now. But I don't know. I don't know.
I have little sympathy for cheaters.
Oh yeah.
there are sometimes extenuating circumstances. Oftentimes the circumstances go into not consensual, or substances were involved or something like that, which also translates into dubious or non-consent. So that's different scenarios.
Right.
When it's fully consensual, fully aware, no.
And, and then they continue to talk, and, Judd asks Grace how long she plans to punish her dad, and then Grace returns it with another question of how long would he expect to be punished for doing the same thing if he had done it. And Judd's like, no, I'm not answering that, because he's like, that's trafficking. He's like, I ain't answering that one.
I know, he knows better.
Yeah, he knows better. But he does make a good point that, she either needs to confront her dad or let it go. She can't keep doing what she's doing because it's not healthy for her or anybody else. He's right. She needs to call her dad out on what he did and not let it go.
Yeah, honestly, like that's literally what you have to do. Like that's literally just get it over with. That's what I say.
All right. So the next scene, if we didn't already not like Kendra, here's another reason why not to like her. So Kendra and Owen are in her bed at her place, and all of a sudden, guy walks in casually, and he introduces himself to Owen, and Owen's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a brother living with you." And she's like, or he or her, I can't remember. It's like, "Oh, I'm her husband."
He said it.
Yeah.
Like, she does have brothers, but I'm her husband, and I'm just like, ew. Like, that they had put that in the promo, so we kind of already knew about this.
Yeah.
The moment I knew about this from the promo, I was steaming.
Yeah.
I skipped through most of this scene because I hated it so much.
Yeah, I was really cringy. And it's explained that they're in an open marriage, and Owen is definitely surprised. And I think all of us are like, yeah, we want to be done with this. So that's all I'm saying about that, because there's more coming later. The next scene.
Like, I want to forget this ever happened, to be honest with you. And honestly, all the Kendra Owen scenes, I will never, if I rewatch this episode, I will literally just watch one scene. And we haven't seen that scene yet. So if that gives you any clues.
Right. So we fast forward to the 126. Owen's on shift, and all the crew is downstairs. And TK makes a comment to his dad that he has a visitor. Guess who it is? It's Brett. It's Kendra's husband. Why?
This is wrong on so many levels.
I know. Like,
I'm gonna have something to say.
Audacity.
Yeah.
Scene. Once we get through this scene, I'm gonna have a few things to say. But let's walk through the rest of this scene.
Okay. So Brett comments to Owen that he took something that was his. Owen thinks he's talking about Kendra, but he's actually talking about the sunglasses he accidentally took. They have a very weird conversation. And yeah, everybody's watching this whole thing. You can see the faces on everybody as comments are being made. And it comes out that Owen introduces Brett as Kendra's husband, and that they're in an open relationship. And I think what got me was the comment, what do you do better, or what would you rather do, kick a dead horse or welcome a new stallion into the barn or something? And I just, Ronan's face,
and he had said that wasn't scripted, like all their faces weren't scripted. And I was like, well, yeah, that's how could you script that? Like, that's literally how I would
just be roll with the scene, bro. Roll with the scene.
If I ever need a grossed out GIF, that is going to be the one I'm going to be using. I'm saving that. I'm bookmarking that.
Yeah.
And I think even TK made a comment about, so everybody has an extra, extra spouse, and it's pretty common or something.
It was, I forget exactly word for word what it is, but basically it was I forget, I'd have to go back, which honestly pains me. But it had something to do with Owen doesn't have a wife to just wife swap was brought up by Judd, and then Owen's TK's to Owen, but you don't have one to just give out, so everyone has one to give out or something like that. It was weird. I kind of want to forget all that.
Mm-hmm.
It was gross, and it was just the guy literally came in here basically guns blazing, literally going off and being you took something that's mine, and he clearly, this is when the first instance where you're getting the vibe that the open marriage probably wasn't his idea, and he definitely is not a fan, and he is just going along with it, and he feels like the other guy, and I'm just dude, what are you trying to accomplish? Because literally you're coming into a firehouse, somebody's workplace, literally going off about who knows what. Because honestly, I just tuned out. Like whatever happened after the first time watching, I was like, yep, nope, I'm done.
So,
Well, and then even Judd confronts Owen about it, and Owen's like, "I'm never going back there. No way."
Oh yeah, Judd's like, oh, I couldn't do her with the husband in the next room, and and Owen's like, oh, trust me, I won't be going back there.
Yeah.
so, here's the thing. I didn't like Kendra to begin with.
Same.
She willfully deceived Owen
Right.
about her
Mhm.
relationship status. This was not an oops, I somehow forgot to mention I was married. No, this is worse. That she willfully left out the fact she was in a
For
relationship.
months.
Yeah, for months. Yeah.
The thing. A small percentage of people can make open marriages or open relationships work.
Mhm.
There are strict rules that come with that kind of life. And one of those rules tends to be being completely open with all partners about your relationship status. And when you break that rule, it equates to cheating. There's a thin line, and people break it all the time. So essentially, I'm not making calls on necessarily what their rules in the relationship were, because I'm not sure that was clarified. One would presume they were supposed to mention being in a open marriage, but we don't know that.
Right.
However, Owen was deceived and not given the chance. He was not given a consent opportunity, which pisses me off.
Right.
And then this bitch of a rich man comes into his workplace, complete violation,
Yeah.
in front of his crew,
Mm-hmm.
else the entire thing. This is wrong on so many levels. And I hate the pair of them.
Mhm.
And I feel bad for Owen.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so mad.
Right.
And I'm not going to not be mad at this because this is wrong on so many levels and literally a textbook on what not to do.
Right. I don't know. Like, there's just I don't even know. Like, no words. Like, there's just so many things like wrong with that, and like, it was just so icky. And like, this is what I was gonna say. I couldn't remember what I was gonna say, but like, this is another one of those instances where I'm like, what were the writers smoking to have come up with this? Because they're literally own storylines like are starting to get like dumber and dumber. Like every episode they do something for him. It's like, oh, what's something dumber we can give this man? And literally this is what they come up with. Like I hate that they're doing that because like they're doing him so dirty this season.
Not even his fault in this. Like this.
Oh, it's literally the writer's fault.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm like, there's by the end of this, we find I'll get into all that when we get to it, but they're bringing up an interesting parallel storyline.
Mhm.
I'm not sure why they're doing this again, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah. So an hour later, after this weird scene with Brett and Owen, they're sitting in the truck and they're going to an emergency and they're heading back to Kendra's house because Brett decided to rotate the tires of Kendra's vehicle and the car fell on him and now his hand and arm is stuck underneath one of the tires. Yeah, and
I'm like, dude's not a mechanic. Also, I just love Owen be like, oh, I'm never gonna go back there. 1 hour later, jinx.
Exactly. And then, obviously the crew had to come because Tommy, Nancy, and TK were already there and they couldn't obviously get the car off of him or get him, out safe. So they had to bring the paramedics and firefighters in to have the equipment to do it. And once they do rescue him and Owen kind of helps walk the guy through some breathing so he could calm down because he was in so much pain. And then Kendra shows up just kind of at the last minute as he's getting wheeled into the ambulance and is like, oh my God, and she's so freaking out. It's obviously she still has feelings for him. So she goes and rides with him and it's so freaking awkward.
It was awkward.
I love how Judd was like, you're coming with us.
I know.
Like you're not
I
going
know,
in that.
like he needed somebody to be like, we got you, because like she didn't even acknowledge his presence, which I get, like he was hurt, but I also don't care that he was hurt, to be honest. I also don't care if she did notice him because she's honestly garbage and she doesn't deserve him. Even I don't care like what anybody says. She doesn't deserve
Right.
it.
No.
Yep.
No.
And our next storyline is Grace's parents are showing up for babysitting, and they're a little early. Charlie wakes up and Grace's mom goes to get her, which leaves Grace and her dad alone. Grace is trying to kind of calmly give her dad the information, but he's kind of clueless on why she's going off on him because she starts snapping at him. But they walk in, Grace's mom and Charlie walks in. So that's kind of like, it's some tension, and Grace says some kind of nasty things to her dad. And that's kind of how it's left. And I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah,
But
you knew this was coming because like the more
Yeah.
tension builds and it's been 2 years and nothing has been said. Like
Right.
I could not like just because like I'm the kind of person where like I've been in situations where things have been tense and then I've let it build up so far that then I just ended up like bursting, literally either going off or crying about it. So like I could never.
Now,
It's terrible.
here's the thing. I don't even remember because I don't. Whether her father knew that Grace.
No, I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
She knew that Judd knew, but I don't think because he said specifically, "Do not tell Grace" or something like that. Like he
Yeah,
said, "Please don't tell her."
Yeah, but
Yeah.
when Judd did finally build up the guts to talk to her, she told him she knew.
Oh yeah, because she had either like looked up the call in like and stuff or something. Oh, because like things weren't adding up because her father had been like saying things and like like when she showed up at the hospital, like things just weren't adding up. So she had
Mhm.
ended up like looking up the call and like listening to it, and that's when she like
Yeah.
heard it. That's kind of how she knew.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel like Grace definitely has some reasons to be upset with her dad because, I think the woman when she called 911 said boyfriend.
I think
Yeah.
so.
I don't think this was just a one-time thing. So I feel like Grace has every right to be upset with her dad for what he did.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I might go back and rewatch that episode.
I was just thinking
for
that
fresh
even just
eyes.
for
I
like
might
that
have to.
scene to like
Yeah.
hear that because I'm really curious.
Right. So our next scene is, I'm assuming this is the next day or maybe a few hours later after Brett getting injured.
I think it was a
Kendra-
few hours later just because she was like, "Oh, I hope you didn't get anything on your way back."
Right. So Kendra is at the firehouse with like two of like the top sushi chefs in Austin, and they're making this huge sushi spread as a thank you for helping Brett whenever this was. And
Girl, I
of
almost
course,
cried.
yeah.
Why
of
do they
course,
keep bringing the firehouse and shit? Like
Yeah.
big public displays? This is so fucking crazy.
It was so
Right.
weird.
This is so long.
Yeah, and I loved Judd's comment about not eating bait, so he was glad that she brought teriyaki for those who didn't eat sushi.
I
And,
know. I was like, Judd's gonna be that one, which I can't
Yes.
blame him.
No, I love sushi, but there's certain sushis I stay away from.
It's
and
like,
Yeah.
I think Owen definitely had a lot on his like mind with this, but he pulls her aside and he flat out breaks up with her. He's like, look, he was blindsided. He doesn't like surprises, and he's not okay with it.
I was impressed with him.
I was very proud of him for doing that.
I was sitting there, I'm like, okay, boy, if you don't let her go by the end of this episode, I have like no hope for you. It doesn't even take till the end of the episode. He's breaking up with her halfway through, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. Like, you have
Right.
some self-worth.
yeah, except for that's about to go down.
Yeah.
To be
So-
fair, none of it's exactly him getting back together with her, though.
Right. It'll be interesting to see what the next episode brings. But back at Kendra's house,
Yeah, that's
this is,
exactly what I meant.
Yeah, we're gonna see what happens.
back at Kendra's house, she starts to have a spat with Brett because obviously they still live together, and he's getting in this cryo spa machine that he was talking about, and he's in a cast, and she's like, "You're not supposed to do that." He does it anyways, and she's getting ready to go out on a run, and he starts poking her buttons, and one of them is that they had an agreement apparently that she wasn't supposed to fall in love with anybody and get attached, which is what she was doing with Owen. And she kind of gets mad and then tells him she hopes he freezes to death. And like an hour later, she comes back, and what has happened? Something has happened with the machine, and he's frozen ice cube in this machine. So guess where the 126 has to come back to?
Yay.
Obviously they have to like pry this machine open. They'd unplugged it. Something was happening with the cooling materials. Things were just not working the way they were supposed to. So they pull him out. after using a Halligan to pop the door open. And as soon as they get on the ground, there's no pulse. So obviously they have to start compressions because you're not dead unless you're warm and dead. Yeah. And so, of course, Owen gets ready to start doing compressions, and literally his whole chest breaks in like it's frozen solid.
Okay, that was like when I first saw that. First of all, I cringed so much, but I was also like, wait, can that actually happen?
Sure. If I'm being honest,
Yeah.
I don't know if it can happen.
I know, and I was like,
Like, I would think everything would be solid. Like, you couldn't
I don't know. I was like,
press down.
I was like, that can't happen, can it? But and I was like, I don't know. Like, and it's just like that was like and I don't know. A lot of people were so like pissed at Owen for doing that.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh my God, that was so careless, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And everyone's like, oh my God, he should go to jail for that. And I'm like, okay, if we're going to go to that level, then you need to put everyone else on the same pedestal and stuff. Because literally last season, Nancy, like, she disregarded a DNR, then she should go to jail because that's even like,
right.
I get like Owen poked him and like, yeah, he should have known, or he should have been like, maybe I should wait. Maybe I shouldn't do anything.
Here's the thing. Is that you have the warring between, we don't know what the situation is for dealing here. Also, warring with, you need to start compressions.
Right.
Because he, as fire captain, cannot declare someone dead. Paramedics cannot declare someone dead.
Yeah.
You have to keep compressions going until you reach the hospital.
Right.
Except for in a few cases. However, you're not declared officially dead before you get to the hospital.
Right.
Right.
That is not in the fire department's realm.
Right.
So technically speaking, I don't know if there's a protocol for this. That's not my realm of area. Like,
I feel like this is like the one thing that's never happened, possibly, and like it's like, well, oh shit, I did this.
The
and I think
one thing I think is maybe he should have waited for the paramedics to come in. However, I don't blame him.
I don't think he knew that would happen. You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
he wouldn't have done it.
Was so
it's not like he was like, oh my God, this man's in the way of a future relationship. I'm going to crack his fucking chest and
I know, and that's what people are acting like. People are acting like he literally murdered somebody. And I'm like, you guys do realize that wasn't
malicious.
him.
Owen's not malicious. I don't know what anyone has ever pulled from to make them think that Owen is malicious. He's not always the smartest person.
He's punched a few people, but, you know, those were warranted, sort of.
He's not calculated. He's not malicious, and doesn't mean ill.
Well, like, and I get why people are upset, but I guess for me, so there's two things that I was kind of wondering. Okay, so we've kind of obviously tackled this a lot in season 1 because paramedics and firefighters are not the same thing anymore in Austin as they are in New York. So like Owen as a firefighter was also probably EMT certified, and Tommy, Nancy, and TK were all like right behind them. They should have been the ones to rush over and start even considering doing compressions. Owen should never have done it. But on the other hand, as fire captain, he's the one to take responsibility for anything any of the crews do. So he should have been one of the ones being a part of treatment, because not doing something can be considered withholding life-saving treatment.
Right. And also, like, the main thing I think a lot of people are thinking of is like, that man was so like frozen, it was obvious he was dead. And when you're like that, there's no way you're coming back from that. That is like far past hypothermic.
I think there's still an obligatory attempt.
Yeah, like,
I think there is a thing about you have to at least try to get some sort of stimulation going.
Yeah.
I know that for example, what I'm certified in, which is like casual CPR, AED, and first aid, I could look at the situation and choose not to start any sort of treatment. The moment I start treatment, I am responsible for what happens.
Exactly.
Right.
But at my level of certification, I could look at that and be like, I'm not going to, and I won't get in any trouble.
Right.
This is different because that's their job.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and not only that, like, you're right. There is paramedics and firefighters cannot declare somebody dead. They have to take them to the hospital and have a medical provider. Now, there are instances where a paramedic could be on the radio with a doctor, and the doctor could ask, can you do this, this, and this? And if these things are no, or there's no blood pressures, no signs of life, then the doctor over the radio can declare time of death. But a paramedic or a firefighter cannot do that. So they have to do life-saving treatment, regardless of what other injuries. And we already know, because most people tell you this, if you do CPR correctly, you're going to crack ribs anyways.
Yeah. Except they don't sound like a crab leg. That's what people. Somebody said that on Twitter earlier. They were like, "That sounded like a crab leg," and I was like, "Oh, I can't unsee that." Somebody was calling it like cereal.
That now.
Oh my god! I don't know. Like, I have so many conflicting feelings about this because I'm just like, damn, like that happened. And even when Owen saw it, like the chest, like basically in cave in, he was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Like, what did I do? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I feel a little bit bad because, like, he was doing his job, but, like, it's kind of, like, and I even, like, kind of went on a rant on, like, Instagram yesterday about it because I was, like, people are literally acting so insane and saying the most outlandish things and stuff, and I'm just like, this is just... It's not that, like, it's not as dramatic as, like, they made it look so dramatic, and I'm not even sure if that can actually happen. And I loved, because I was talking to TJ about it, like, he replied to my rant, and he was like, it's kind of hard to kill somebody because people are acting like he murdered him. And
he's dead. Like, he was like, dead.
Yeah. He's like, it's kind of hard to kill somebody that's actually dead, like already dead. And I'm like, literally, like, this. So I did
a little Grace Google into the whole, you know me. I did a whole Google thing into pronouncing dead. Thing is that it can verify by state. So EMTs cannot. Some states paramedics can.
Yeah, I think I've heard that because I've seen it in shows.
Yeah. Obviously, doctors can. However, there are some exceptions. Like in this case, the person was very obviously dead. So you can say someone's dead if they're like, say someone's decapitated.
Yes.
I would say they're dead.
Right.
It's that thing. If I believe I also saw something about like if the like cardiac arrest isn't witnessed by the EMT, like it happened before they even got there. So it's not defined.
There's a lot of gray area for sure.
Oh yeah,
definitely the people that can consistently declare it are doctors. Like obviously in this case, that guy was dead. But it's still.
But it's
clear with the laws of Texas.
Yeah, and so
that also tends to do like you have to do a trial of CPR.
Right, but honestly, like they could have like emergently transported him to the hospital and tried to warm him up because technically he wasn't dead unless he was brain dead. Because his brain could have been alive, but his body could have been frozen. So there's all these different things because it was a cryo machine and we don't know how far up it went. We don't know if his brain was affected. So had Owen not done CPR and they just tried to put warming blankets on him and rushed him to the hospital where they could, assess the situation, then they may have been able to wake him up. But he was way far gone by the time she got back.
Well, it had been 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So he would have been way too gone by then. Right. If we were talking about like 10 minutes,
this is
more of a chance.
That's more of the reason not to have one of those machines in your house. And I honestly don't think that should be legal.
Yeah,
I really don't think that should be legal because, like, can you imagine how many lawsuits if this happened in real life? Like,
oh gosh, yeah,
how many lawsuits they'd be facing?
Stuff like cryo machines and saunas. People don't know how to use them, and they're so faulty. It's absolutely insane. So it's not Owen's fault. Like
it's not.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
He did the best he could. The guy was dead.
And the worst thing was because Kendra was there, like they brought her back to the station with them in the fire truck.
That was so awkward because literally Owen's like to Judd, oh, can you take care of everything? I'm gonna like try and get out of here and take her home. And I'm just, or you can come home with me. And I'm like, oh, please make it stop. Please.
I know he was being like a friend in this statement. I'm just like, can't you have done what you could have done to like anybody else and just kind of family? Don't take her back to the station. She's desecrated that place enough. I have no sympathy for her.
I know, same. I don't even care.
I'm just the
I
whole
don't feel
thing makes
bad
me
for
feel
having
weird.
no sympathy. I really don't.
I don't. And I hated
Right.
the husband. Like, sucks to go out that way, but I'm not
Yeah.
grieving him.
Right.
All right. And then, while they're dealing with all that, we're at the call center, and Bree gets a call, and it's a woman whose husband has collapsed. And when she gives the address, she kind of turns to Grace when she realizes it's Grace's address.
She yells her name, and I'm like, you shouldn't have done that. I was so mad.
She
I was
should have
so
never
mad.
done
That was
it.
so unprofessional. Like, I was honestly
Yeah.
mad at her because I was like, you should have just taken the call, done your job
Mhm.
like you do every damn day, but you decided
Right.
to literally call her because it's her mom
So of
calling
course
about her dad.
Right. So of course jumps on the line. Starts like, you could tell she's starting to freak out. Her mom's freaking out. Grace is yelling at her. Her mom's like not answering the thing. She's not doing what she's being asked. And of course, Grace's boss has to take over the call and calmly walks Grace's mom through some questions on how to start CPR until paramedics get there. And Grace is just kind of standing there numb because she's like, what do I do? And of course, Grace didn't leave things with her dad very well the last time she saw
Right.
him. So I can only imagine she's standing there thinking, oh my God, what if my dad died and this is the last thing I said to him? Which we then, we see later, we're talking at the hospital, and she does mention that. And, Judge shows up at the hospital, meeting up with Grace and her mom. Their neighbors watching Charlie. And her mom keeps saying, oh, you guys don't have to stay, you guys can go home, don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it, he just had a heart attack and is in surgery for a bypass. Yeah, something to worry about.
Like, I get it in a sense, but I'm also like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, Grace starts, talking to her mom about how they should call her sisters and that they should be here. And Grace's mom's like, oh, it's fine. He'll be fine. It's ridiculous. Let's not bother them.
She said that he wouldn't like if they were making a fuss, which it's
Right.
like, he literally had a heart attack and he's in surgery. I think this is one of the instances where it's okay to make a little bit of a fuss.
Right.
Just a wee bit.
Yeah. And so the surgeon comes out and he starts talking to them. He says that the surgery was successful. He's out of it right now. They don't know when he'll wake up, and there could be some more damage, but they were able to repair what they could. And I think Grace's mom, it finally hit her just how severe this was. And it wasn't just a, bump on the head. So she agrees to let Grace call her sisters. Yeah, it was an interesting twist because her mom went just almost a heartbeat, went from, oh, don't make a fuss, don't call your sisters, to, oh, I think you need to call your sisters. I'm like, this is what I've been saying all along.
Yeah.
But I know she's in grief. She's in shock. She's not thinking clearly.
Yeah, clearly with that call we got, and I don't know, that was just so like,
Yeah.
It was like just all much, and I'm like, oh dear.
Right. So then later we see Grace is standing by the door of her father's room. Judge shows up with coffee and a muffin, even though he knows she won't eat it.
We love the supportive husband.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, why aren't you in there with him? And she's like, she feels guilty because what she said to him that morning, that he was excited to see Charlie, and Grace said, good dad, at least you're here and not out there getting in trouble, because that was her way of kind of starting the conversation. And Jed admits, yeah, that's not the sweetest, but it's not the worst thing she could have ever said to him.
Remarkably tame compared to what I probably would have said.
Yeah.
Honestly, same.
And
But
Grace
also, I
said
would not have waited 2 years.
Right.
Same.
Yeah. And Grace says she saw how much it broke his heart. And, of course, Grace can't blame herself. This, the heart attack was not on her.
I know.
Jed said, it's like 60 years of bad food, basically,
Mayonnaise and bacon, I think is what he said.
Yeah. And so while Grace is talking to it, she's like, well, how do I just, let go? It's like when her dad stepped out on her mom, and then her mom shows up and says that she knew, and, this had made them stronger. And of course, that kind of shocked Grace because Grace didn't know that her mom knew.
Right. She apparently, he had apparently told her, which, okay, that's something.
And then her mom's like, oh, so this is why you've been so distant and cold with your dad. And I'm like, oh, at least your mom knew and picked up at least some of it. So Grace breaks down and goes in after hugging her mom. She does go in and sits with her dad, and she starts talking to her dad. And then I love this transition of she starts singing Smile which is a really beautiful song. I was in tears listening to it.
I know, yeah.
And her real life, Sierra's real life sisters walk in, who are playing Grace's sisters. And they all start singing this song together, and it was so beautiful. Like, well done, such an amazing version.
That is my favorite, and honestly, only scene I like in this episode.
Yes, that was really good. And as they're singing, Grace's dad, he wakes up. He was happy to see them all together singing, and kind of just like he'd been talking about at the beginning of the episode. So it was just kind of a good thing, yeah, which kind of lightened up the mood with everything that had gone on in the other stuff. And then our next scene is Judd walking into the ICU room, which my roommate and I were very clear that would have never happened. Like, children, and her dad was way too perky for like having just woken up after open heart surgery. Just saying. But the magic of TV. Grace gives Charlie to her dad, and kind of, it's like an olive branch, I guess you could say, talking about how they have a lot to catch up on. So it was sweet, kind of how they did it. It's kind of I don't know, I'm glad they wrapped it up like this, but this ain't over. Show is almost over, but I don't think this is over.
I have different thoughts about the scene. So I have no connection to the song Smile. I've never heard it before. I do think it was cool that, the McLean sisters were all there together. Personally, the singing thing didn't do anything for me. Personally, like, I acknowledge it probably was great for other people. For me, it just felt like a little bit of fan service, if I was being honest. But honestly, I've liked other stuff that has felt like fan service, so I'm not going to judge anyone for liking it. It's all good. I definitely do have some thoughts I'm going to bring up later about the overall storyline here, but I do think it was a sweet close to their part in the episode. I definitely agree it's not over. Like, I'm going to be disappointed if they don't continue to bring it up, because I've been ignoring it for 2 seasons.
Yeah, honestly, like, the way they go, I have a feeling that like it might not come up and stuff, just because I feel like this was their way of like being like, okay, we brought it up, like, here's that. And honestly, I'm not really sure what more they could really do with it, because they literally said her mom knows, and that was kind of the whole point in season 2, about like, oh, I gotta tell my mom, and then she never told her mom. And also her confronting her dad, and like, yes, she didn't full on go into that, but also like she didn't really need to, and she kind of said in a way what she needed to. So I don't know if like it will come up at least this season, because I feel like different things will come up, even just moving forward.
Yeah, at least, yeah. And then our final full scene of the episode is Owen and Kendra at Owen's house, and they're talking about the accident. She's talking about how guilty she felt. She's also sharing her guilt, because she did say she hoped that her husband froze to death in that machine, and
he did. That's terrible.
He did. It is very terrible. And while they're talking, all of a sudden Owen gets a call from Gabriel Reyes.
Uh-oh.
When I saw his name, I was like, Gabriel!
I literally got so happy.
Listen,
like, I wasn't excited about any of this until I saw Gabriel's name.
Right.
I'm just gonna say, I've been calling this since like almost the beginning of the episode.
Oh yeah.
And the moment something happened to I called this the entire way down. I was calling this.
The first accident was a fluke. The second time, I'm like, no, this is, something's up. Yeah. And then when I saw, so Gabriel calls and starts talking about Owen, about how, hey, he responded to the call at the estate. He needed to talk to Owen about it, because when an influential rich man dies, suddenly questions get asked. And Owen is like, well, it's not really his house, it's Kendra's. And he's like, yeah, well, name doesn't really matter. But Gabriel doesn't think it's an accident. And they found that Brett had a neurotoxin in his system. And this isn't the first time Kendra has had something like this happen. So Owen's asking, like, what are you saying? And he's like, Gabriel is like, it looks like Brett was poisoned, and they're officially investigating the case as a homicide. And he thought Owen should know.
Right. He didn't bring up Kendra, though, until the promo. Like, that wasn't in this part. Like, so Owen doesn't know that, like, he suspects Kendra.
Yeah.
It's definitely implied.
Yes, it's definitely implied. And so,
it's implied because she's a wife. They look at the spouse first.
Yeah. And I think they've said it in some of the other shows. Yeah. And I think in some of the crime shows that I've seen, they always talk about women often are the ones that do the poisoning over men poisoning somebody. So I'm like, interesting. And neurotoxin would definitely like cause your body to like freeze up so like you couldn't move.
Okay, this is getting real creepy. I didn't really think about it. Like I was just like, okay, this is happening. And I'm like, okay, that's a little dark. That's a little creepy. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
Here's the thing. This is the first time the Kendra story's gotten interesting.
yeah.
It's gotten interesting because I'm really hoping she goes to jail.
Mm.
I only have one thing to say. Sadie 2.0 who?
Listen, that
my
was
next
my
thought.
entire. I'm like, why are we revisiting this?
Right.
Like, why is this happening again?
Like, all I have to say is Carlos and TK better not let anybody into their house. I'm just saying this now.
I don't think they'll go
I think
there.
they need to move away for the
No.
next 2 months just to be safe.
Right. Yeah.
Go on your honeymoon early, boys.
Although
You give me
we
a
are
come back.
Although we kind of already have an idea of like how it goes down, at least.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, people are like asking me the other day, like, do you think it was her? And I'm like, I don't know, because like, it seems too
think it's too
obvious.
Mm-hmm.
It seems way too obvious. Like, it could be her, and like that could be their angle. But I'm like,
Right.
it also seems like way too obvious.
Yeah.
I have another idea,
Mm-hmm.
which like I'd be happy if it was her, but it feels too
Oh
obvious.
yeah, same. Just because it gets rid of her.
I literally hate her so much at this point.
And then she meets Sadie, and there's something in prison. I invented that
Right.
storyline in my head the other. They just
God.
start talking, and they're like, and she's like, "Oh yeah, so I poisoned my boyfriend," and she's like, "Huh, I poisoned these two boys and stuff," and then like it's like, "Oh, this is the same person." Oh, okay, that's weird.
So I wonder if he did it to himself. Like this
I
was
don't
this
know.
suicide.
Maybe
Maybe
to frame her. That'd be
frame
weird.
her, or maybe he's trying to frame Owen.
I was
I don't
thinking
know.
that because I was thinking, I'm like, okay, somehow I'm like, I think Gabriel's gonna know Owen enough to know that he's not gonna be involved, and that Owen's just kind of a bystander in this situation. But I'm sure questions are gonna get asked regarding the fact that Owen was dating her, as you know, she's married to this guy, and now this guy is suddenly dead, and yeah, I don't know.
Personally like my running idea that goes along with doing it to himself is to frame her
Mm-hmm.
as like maybe like a final payback for like breaking his heart or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. So like overall, I thought the show was good. Definitely had some weird moments that I'm like, I will happily forget. But I think the Grace and Jed storyline and Grace's and her dad's storyline definitely needed to be had. I'm glad we finally got some sort of like closure with it.
Right. Yeah, I didn't hate this episode, but I also didn't like it. There really wasn't anything in it for me, really. Like, yeah, we closed a storyline, and that was great, and I'm happy about that. But like the whole Kendra Owen thing, like I hated all of it. Like it was like until the end, until Gabriel Snape popped up, I was like, okay, now you have my attention. But like everything else to it was just so stupid, and it's like, why are we I've said this since Kendra literally walked in the picture. Like I've been like, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? What is happening? Like, why are we doing this? Because it literally makes no sense. It is probably the dumbest storyline they have ever tried to do, and I hate it. It's so stupid. It's like, what is going on? Like, I really want to know what's going on over there.
So overall, there were a couple things I liked about this episode, but it's definitely one of my least favorites of the season. I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't say I even liked it. I guess there was a fair amount about the Grace and Judd storyline that was cool. I do love seeing their family union and stuff. I personally thought everyone was a little too forgiving about the cheating. I know it's been 2 years, but the expectation of just getting over it bugged me, especially without having those conversations. And then having just the kind of automatic switch into everything's going to be fine without conversations at the end. At least that's what it felt like. I understand that like it was a life and death situation that like put things into perspective kind of thing. And I'm glad I had a feeling the wife knew, and I'm glad that was confirmed.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily love how that was resolved.
Yeah, I would have liked more like conversation, especially with like Grace and her dad. I would have liked even like conversation with Grace and her mom. It just seemed like they had been asked, because obviously this happened in season 2, that they had been asked like, when is this gonna come up, and it even came up in interviews and literally earlier this year. And it was like, oh, I wonder if this is gonna come up, like, and stuff. And then it was like, okay, we're addressing this. And they kind of just, I feel like it was just like, oh, we gotta address this. It's been 2 years.
It felt slapped now. And I kind of wish more time had been taken with it.
Right.
And I have another complaint about the Kendra Owen storyline, but less to do with the Kendra Brett stuff. I don't like how laissez-faire everyone else is about the situation.
Oh, yeah.
Put some things into perspective. If someone was pulling this shit with Marjan or Tommy or any of the women, if some married man was pulling all the shit that Kendra is pulling on Owen with one of the women in the firehouse, no one would be going, yeah, you go get it, or well,
yeah, exactly.
I don't get paid. This is not okay. Like, especially the workplace shit. Taking stuff into the workplace, so inappropriate. And the fact that no one stepped in, I know Owen's the captain, but other people could have stepped in.
Right. And
I'm rather pissed at how that's been.
Right. Especially since, like, I know Paul's comment was like, Cap, you're part of a throuple. And I'm like, I don't care how close you are to him. That is your boss. That is weird.
Exactly.
That was so weird. Like, I'm never, like, honestly, never rewatching it. Unless.
And then the comment about monogamy being dead and Mateo being like, it is. And then
He's
Nancy's
so
comments about, well, you will be if you, I was
my God.
I feel
like,
you can tell I haven't paid attention to most of that conversation. Like, honestly, I don't
know if the writers are trying to do a really bad acceptance strain of like the open relationship polygamous role, which I have many friends who are polyamorous or they have multiple partners, clearly defined boundaries, things are fine. I know people in these situations, not open marriages, but in polygamous or polyamorous relationships.
Okay.
It's not a thing of I have an issue against these, because I don't.
Right.
I feel like this is giving some of that a bad name.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like they're trying to play a weird acceptance by the fact that no one's being bothered about all the ways this is going wrong, and it ticks me off.
Yeah, it's like, I hate to say this, but it almost seems like they're trying to fetishize like open relationships and that kind of stuff. Like, it's so icky. That's literally it.
I'll go one step further. At times, it feels like they're even, I don't know how to say this right, and I hope you guys understand what I mean. It feels like they're fetishizing Owen.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
And I'm not cool with that.
Yeah,
not either.
It's just weird.
It's weird. And like, I'm glad for him for breaking out of the relationship, and I hope he stays away from it. Like,
stay single, please.
Yeah.
Not just stay single. Stay away from this crazy bitch.
Yeah.
Don't stick your dick in crazy.
Yeah. Well,
she's crazy.
So do we have some fan thoughts from this? Because I'm curious what other people have to say besides the three of us. Because I know
I could continue on this for a while, but I want to know
we all could.
Right. I know. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people were just like, but like, oof, that's kind of weird. Like, I have a feeling like, it's about, the dead man, and everyone's just like, that crunch haunts me. And I'm like, I watched it for the second time today, and I was like, I can never watch that today again. And I know a lot of people are like, that is literally unlocked a new like marriage. I'm like, yeah, I was never gonna do that in general, but like, I especially won't now. And then I feel so bad for Grace when she got the call about her dad. I could feel the panic and terror from both her and her mother. You could literally see her mentally shut down, and I'm glad that her boss stepped in. I like Grace's boss. She's cool. I'm glad that there was a resolution in the Ryder family. I hope we see Grace's family again. The Plain Sisters singing was beautiful. Owen handled Kendra's situation super maturely, and I'm glad that he broke up with her. Fuck Kendra, fuck Brett, honestly. Him coming to Owen's workplace to size him up. Okay, that's what it was super
Mhm.
Yeah.
immature, and you could tell how uncomfortable Owen was, and honestly the whole crew. Owen's storyline with Kendra surprisingly did parallel Grace's storyline. There were some story beats which were similar. I liked the scenes and the storyline which involved the 126, especially TK's comments. Yeah,
Poor TK having
Poor
to witness
TK.
that at work about his dad.
yeah.
I
Bray,
think
if
he's
you
like
guys
the one person other than Judd I would have wanted to have stepped in and just
Oh
shut
yeah,
that.
for sure. I
Yeah.
wanted somebody to be like, dude, just leave.
Right.
Because that's what I would have done. And I think I might I think I will, because it's kind of weird to talk about predictions like before the promo. So I think when we talk about people's predictions, I'll talk about that after. It seems weird
Okay.
to mention that before. Like I had thought about it, I was like, do we move fan thoughts and all this stuff to the end? Or do we just I don't know. I think just separate them.
Yeah, separate them.
Unless
That's fine.
somebody has a better idea, because
No, I think that's a good idea because we're gonna
It's just
talk about the
weird.
promo and then people are gonna give their predictions. So I think that's fine. So for the promo for episode 14, Owen is talking to Gabriel. Gabriel says how someone wanted to make it look like it was an accident. Brett's death, obviously. Owen's like, someone meaning Kendra. Kendra says she swears she had nothing to do with this, and Owen's like, I believe you. Come on, Owen. Have you not learned by now? Just don't trust people
Don't
right now.
believe. Don't believe. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. You shouldn't believe her.
He's too
And-
trusting.
Right. And Owen makes a comment to Gabriel that they have a prenup agreement, that she didn't need to kill him had they gotten a divorce or anything like that. And then Gabriel mentions how she's done it before. This isn't the first marriage. Gabriel also says that Kendra is bad news. And then we see her bringing over a bottle of gin, and Owen is passing out. So
she probably drugged him. For
yeah,
sure, Sadie 2.0.
Mm.
yeah.
I'm hoping they put
So
a little spin on it, but like,
right.
I'm like interested to see like how what happens or how it happened. I don't have like a lot of like theories or predictions of like what I think is gonna happen. I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see like what happened in the past with her. Like, what did she do? Like, obviously she killed somebody or something happened, or she drugged somebody or
something
something.
suspicious had that.
Okay, she probably didn't kill somebody because unless she got away with it, but I'm assuming she didn't.
I'm assuming, my guess is she's connected to something that happened, but either she had enough money to make it go bye-bye,
Oh
or
yeah,
no
duh.
evidence.
I'm like,
Yeah.
duh, she's rich, Katie. She's rich,
Right.
remember?
She's
Oh,
rich.
man.
She can make shit disappear.
I forget about like the privilege of people sometimes, like
Right,
especially
like,
rich
the rich.
people.
I think something along that lines, but possibly more of this could be another guy she was sleeping with. Maybe he's a little jealous of her.
I do wonder
and
about that.
wants to
I
get
thought about
the husband out of the way. She says, well, I'm married. Use that as an excuse to get away from the guy. And now he finds out that she's seeing Owen, so she, whoever this is kind of doing what she can to set up Owen or kill the evidence or whatever.
Right.
So
And we also don't know that she poisons him, because literally the gin could be a different scene, and then maybe like if she does have another guy or a guy that wants to get her, whatever the scenario is, the guy
Mhm.
could literally poison Owen.
yeah.
What's important to remember is that promos are purposefully staged to look away.
Right.
So we could
Exactly.
be being completely misguided on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This is like honestly the best promo they've released in literally a while. Like
Right.
Yeah, because they're showing the end of the storyline that none of us like. But
like,
an interesting end to a story.
honestly, episode 4 was honestly the last promo where I was like, okay, that's a good promo.
Yeah.
It's been a hot minute.
It's
Yeah.
been so long.
I was really bummed that Carlos wasn't in this episode, but I'm hoping with Gabriel back in the next episode that may open up a door for maybe a Carlos Gabriel scene.
Okay, they're not gonna have
I
Carlos
need-
gone for 4 or for like not in 4 episodes of the season. Like, I was honestly surprised he was in this episode because he was already missing for like 2, but also like I wasn't like I didn't really feel anything that he was in this episode because honestly, a lot of other shit happened where I was like,
Right.
it. I don't know. He could have been there,
They
but
could have
like,
inserted him. Like, he could have been at the firehouse. But there's not really anywhere else to have inserted him.
Oh
It
yeah,
kind of
no,
focused at
He
all
could've-
on TK or Carlos, and that
He could've-
was okay
yeah.
for this one. Like, yes, I miss my boys. Yes, would it have
we
made it
literally
better?
just got like 12 minutes of them in the last episode,
right.
so
Yeah,
can't
no,
really
I
complain.
just would have. I guess I was thinking more of just like it's a bummer that he wasn't in it, but I mean, neither one of the storylines really pertain to Carlos in any way. So I'm
He would
hoping.
have just been showing up as a cop in like one of the scenes that had to do with the calls, like
Right.
and stuff, like in the last episode.
I
Yeah.
just want him to have scenes with Gabriel.
Yes, I just.
Oh,
yeah,
100%.
Next
exactly.
episode. I
I know. And then
waiting.
then the
I'm
next
hoping
episode
for it.
after that is Carlos and Grace. Like, yes, bring them back. I'm so excited.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I'm excited. They've got some good promos for synopsises for the next couple of episodes, so I'm excited to see where we go with this. But
The season has been interesting,
mhm.
but I feel like we're gonna go out with a bang. I feel like the end of the season.
I'm kind of scared
It's
what
gonna
they're
be-
gonna do in the end.
I'm scared too.
Especially because
But
we have a 2-hour season finale.
I'm not really.
I'm
I'm excited about that. I'm not scared about that, but I'm just.
I'm scared, but in
of-
a good way.
I'm scared about what they're gonna do with the like if it's cliffhanger. Like, is there gonna be like a cliffhanger? Are they gonna hold something over us? Like, what the heck is gonna happen? Also, the wedding is like the second hour of the finale, so I'm like, what the hell is gonna happen?
Right.
They
Um,
better not do anything with that.
I'm like, can we just have
That
one
goes off
normal
without
episode?
no
Can
alternative.
Carlos
That's
have one normal scene where no
Except them
chaos goes?
Yes, we need the IDs, everything to be legit. When the season's over, they are officially married. Nothing's gonna come. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so prediction. There's only one, but yeah,
Okay.
it makes a lot more sense to put it here. But Kendra is 100% guilty unless they introduce a new character. I'm hoping that Owen can keep his mouth shut. Paul is gonna help. Yeah, I did read that Paul is gonna help him because he is he's observant. The 126 may get involved, especially TK. I really hope not, because Owen gets drugged. Okay, if Owen is drugged, I really hope TK's not there. Like, I don't know. I just feel like, or Carlos for that matter, just because I feel like that would just bring up trauma,
Right.
and I
Here's the
don't
thing.
really want that. Like, TK's
I would-
strong, he can handle it, but I'm also like, that's just traumatic.
thing. I would be okay with them finding it. I just don't want there to be any chance of them getting any of the drugs, which
I
TK
don't
would
think
not
they
drink
would.
the alcohol. Here's the thing, he wouldn't drink the alcohol. He's sober.
Right.
So that's not an issue. I'm not worried about that. However, I feel like them being there would be just way too similar to the Sadie storyline. So
Right.
yes, I would be there for them finding him.
Yeah. We also
but
don't know what the situation's going to be like. So hypothetically, which I don't think they're going to be there. I don't think they're going to be involved at all. But hypothetically, if they were there, I feel like they wouldn't have a choice to take or not to take something.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot to find out, and I'm hoping we'll get some more teasers over the next couple of days before the episode drops.
I know. I'm actually like looking forward to this episode. Okay, there's like one half of the episode where I'm like, ugh, because it's like something about like the people at Tommy's church like gossiping about her and the pastor, and I'm like, okay, that is such, that's so stupid. Like, I'm not here
surprised.
for it. It's just like so high school. Like, are you really going to be like, you're all adults, you all like have relationships. Who cares if he's the pastor? It's like, it's not that big of a deal.
Honestly, Loki, I've been expecting it.
I
I've been
know,
expecting
me
the
too.
conference.
I
I'm
mean,
surprised they waited this long.
Yeah,
I know.
me too.
I
Because
know.
a church congregation came. So
I
I
know,
was gonna say
it's
the
just-
same thing.
It's just so cliche. It's so stupid.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We're also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and everywhere you get your podcasts on iTunes and Spotify. Please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You can also follow the podcast on our socials at 911 LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and now TikTok. And don't forget, you can join our Discord server to have conversations with us and fellow fans. The link's in the description of the podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys can follow me, Katie F. Love Carlos, on Instagram and TikTok.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RunandRafa911 on Instagram and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.